Welcome to the Simple Truth About Horses. I'm GwaniPonyBoy, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most common difficulties that people face with their horses. Today we're going to be answering the question, what do I do when my horse crowds me? Crowding is one of the most common difficulties that people face with their horses. Before we take a look at the problems and their solutions, let's talk a little bit about why horses crowd us. Horses are herd animals, and that means a few different things. In the herd, you can be one of two things. You can be either the leader of that herd or a follower to some degree. Naturally, we'd like to be the leader, but it doesn't always work out that way. If your horse believes that she's the leader and you're a follower, there's a good chance that your horse is going to get into your space and crowd you. If you are the leader, there's a good chance that your horse will respect your space. So the real essence of the problem is that your horse doesn't consider you having higher status in the herd. If you'd like to become the leader of the herd, you have to learn how horses do it. And if you watch wild horses or if you watch horses in the pasture, you'll notice that the lead mare, the alpha mare, has better control of all the other horses' feet than they do themselves. So the object here is going to be to get control of our horse's feet. Once our horse understands that we can control her feet better than she can, she'll probably stay out of our space a little better. Whenever we're addressing horse training problems and solutions, it's important to remember that you can't fix problems as they're happening. You have to educate your horse, and then when you encounter the problem, fall back on that education. We can define crowding as any time the horse gets into your personal space without asking permission first. Now, if you were to walk out into a pasture and approach a horse that you didn't know, the horse would come up to you, stop about 3 feet away, drop their head, and essentially ask permission to come into your personal space. Horses will test that personal space 5, 10, 20 times a day. And if you fail the test, if you allow the horse to come into your space without first asking permission, you're encouraging your horse to crowd you.
Who's this hot shot?
I bet I can take him. Horses will only respect our space when they trust us, and they'll only really trust us when we've got great control of their feet. The exercises we're going to be focusing on teach us to control our horse's feet better. Let's take a look at a few examples of horses that don't really respect the space of the people they love. So this is Sonny, a 3-year-old Tennessee Walker that I just met. And we're using Sonny just to show a little bit of how horses disregard our space or how they regard our space. If your horse regularly bumps into you or steps on your heels or gets within more than 3 feet of you or hits you in the back, he probably doesn't have a whole lot of regard for your personal space. See, horses are herd animals, and in the herd you can either be a leader of that herd or a follower to some degree. If I were the alpha mare of this situation and Sonny walked right in and bumped me, I would probably not be real happy about that. It probably shows me that he doesn't think I'm that alpha in the herd. So a little test you can do with your horse at home. You just walk them forward, stop real quick, and see how they regard your space. Do they have any problems getting right into your space or bumping into you? If they do bump into you and get into your space, if they don't have any caution in their steps, they probably don't have very high regard for that personal space. Now, horses that crowd us are one of the most common problems, especially on this groundwork. Horses that are willing to just walk right into you, no problem at all bumping right into your back or stepping on your heels. So he has no problem at all walking right into me, getting right into my space. Basically, your personal space is about 3 feet. And if he's willing to get in that space, if I was that alpha mare, I would go ahead and kick him with both my hind feet.
This horse is kind of funny looking.
I better show him who's the boss around here. I wonder what he tastes like.
He's actually starting to nibble on me a little bit.
Not great.
Tells me he doesn't have real high regard for my space or my person. And again, just not willing to regard that personal space with a lot of respect. Your horse understands perfectly well that you have personal space. It's not that he doesn't understand that, it's just that he disregards it. So if you've got your horse constantly rubbing on you and constantly stepping on your heels and moving you over when you're leading your horse, it's probably a good indication that he doesn't have that respect and therefore doesn't have that trust that you're looking for in your horse. If he has no problem at all chewing on your boots like he's doing right now, he probably doesn't respect you as much as you'd like him to. So just a little test to keep in mind when you're trying to figure out if your horse really respects your space. Most of us don't have to do those tests to figure out that our horse doesn't respect our space as much as we'd like him to. I'm going to take you over to the round pen now, and we're going to show you some exercises that you can do to correct that problem, how to earn your space back, and how to earn the trust and respect of your horse. So here we are at the round pen with Sonny, and I'd like to show you one of the specific exercises we use to begin teaching a horse to stay out of your space. We're in a round pen or a round corral. This happens to be a 50-foot round pen. I would suggest if you've never worked in a round pen before that you use at least a 60-foot round pen. I'm also using a 14-foot training lead, and I use this as an emphasis to what I'm asking. We're going to be asking Sonny to do things in a 3-step process. I'm going to ask, tell. The first ask, I'll focus on the horse and make a kissing sound. The next ask, the second ask, I'll move towards the horse as I focus and make that kissing sound. And the third, which is the tell, I'll use my rope to tell the horse what to do. There are a few different exercises we use to teach the horse to stay out of our space, to stop crowding us. The first of those exercises that we're going to be doing is forward movement on the outside. And what that means is we want the horse moving forward at no particular gait at first, staying within 3 feet of the rail in the round pen. There are 2 points on the horse that you need to focus on. The hind, or the hip, is what you focus on to move the horse forward. The inside front foot is what we're going to focus on to move the horse to the outside. Now with that ask, tell, I'll first ask the horse nicely, then ask the horse a little more aggressively, and then tell him to do whatever it is we're asking. If you don't have a final tell, you end up asking, and the horse basically understands that you don't really mean what you say. So that's why it's important to use a training lead in this particular area. Before we get started, I'd like to take a few minutes to show you some of the things that can go wrong in the round pen. The object here is to get the horse to the outside, and the horse's object is to come to the center. So if you give the horse that opportunity, they will gladly move into your space. Now, Sonny was pretty good at demonstrating how he can get into our space. We'll see how he does here in the round pen. In order to move him away from me, I'm going to first look at his shoulder, and then I'm going to look at his hip to move him forward. And my object here is to move him around, and I'm going to give him an opportunity not to go to the outside, but to come to the inside. If you're not careful and you're not watching about keeping the horse on the outside, they will usually be pretty willing to get into your space. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they don't look at the correct thing. If I wanted him to move to the outside, I would look at his inside front foot. But because I'm looking at his hip while I'm doing this, it's allowing the horse to cut across the center into my space and get very aggressive with me, turning in and looking at me with his ears pinned. And if we gave him the opportunity, he would probably be more than happy to round pen me.
This guy has no idea what he's doing. I think I'll show him a thing or two.
Sonny would like nothing more than to stand in the middle and have me go around in circles. That would be a lot more comfortable. And because horses gravitate towards what's most comfortable, they'll seek out the middle of that round pen. This is a game that they play with each other in the pastures, trying to control each other's feet. And if If I were doing this properly, I would require that Sonny stay within 3 feet of that rail.